Witchcraft, understood as the practice or belief in malevolent, harmful magic, has no single point of origin. It is a near-universal human phenomenon that appears independently across cultures, with roots likely tracing back to prehistoric shamanic or magical traditions, where certain individuals were seen as able to influence the supernatural world, for good or ill. In the period between 1400 and 1775, widespread belief and persecution of witchcraft led to the deaths of approximately 40 to 60,000 people, 80% of whom were women. To be a witch, to look like a witch, or to be accused of witchcraft was most certainly a death sentence and was greatly feared. So how did we go from that to such popular and wholly disarming characters in our modern world as Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, The Wizard of Oz's Glinda, the Good Witch, Samantha Stevens of Bewitched, and many more such witchy and witchcraft-based topics? What does it really mean to be a witch? And is it safe to be one? Join us today as we explore the very hazy and often very tricky history of witchcraft.
There is a medicine story that tells of Crow's fascination with her own shadow. She kept looking at it, pecking at it until her shadow woke up and became alive. Then Crow's shadow ate her. Crow is dead Crow now. Join us as we attempt to look through the wandering crow's eye to find the gateway to the supernatural, to seek to know the unknowable mysteries of creation. Welcome to the Wandering Crow Podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Hello, murderers and wanderers. It's me, Mandy.
This is Abby.
And this is JT.
It still says Elf Curious.
Oops.
Oh, I'm so glad that's there. Update, friends. Update. So I want everyone to know about the efforts that I have put forward trying to find this elf sex book. Okay?
I've leaned in.
One of the visuals just came to me. One of the stick figure visuals.
Between myself and Abby, and I don't remember which one of us it was, we found one more of the stick figure positions. It was magical. It was amazing. So the elf man is bent over backwards like a rainbow.
Oh.
And he's got his member up in the sky, and she's kind of just on him, like riding him, like doing what she needs to do. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So what I did was I Googled the name. Please Yourself, right? By, what was her name? Helmsdottir. I tried Goodreads. I tried Barnes & Noble. I tried Amazon. I tried some kind of Java cafe. I tried probably like 10 different online bookstores or purveyors of books, and none of them had it. So then there was one that I could see that was like an Italian, and I was like, oh, if I gotta like do that, then I will figure it the fuck out in Italian. So I changed to some Italian version of one of those bookstores. They didn't actually have it. It was a bait and switch type situation. So then I Googled it. Yeah. Where in the world? Because it doesn't seem like it's actually being, what's the word?
It's no longer
not in
print.
Yeah. So then I found one. It's in Reykjavik University. So there is a copy in existence in the University of Reykjavik or Reykjavik University Public Library, like the library there on campus. And I was like, shit. So then I Googled it some more, and then I found that there was a post about it on Instagram like 4 years ago, and someone was looking for the book. And somebody else commented, I found it by actually looking online at an Icelandic online bookstore. And I was like, got it. So then I started looking at Icelandic online bookstores, and I found one, and I actually used Google Translate to translate my message for me into Icelandic. And I sent them an email, and they emailed me back, and they were like, we're so sorry, we don't have that book. I was like, God damn it. So then I emailed the author herself because there's actually a couple places where her email is available. I emailed her.
Mandy's going to the ends of the literal freaking earth.
I want you to know that I worked for you, murderers. I wanted it. And I'm saying I did it for you. I did it for myself. I'm going to be honest. I want that damn book. I emailed her directly and nothing. She ghosted me. Not a response. And I don't know, maybe it went to like her spam, or maybe she thinks, or maybe she, she's got a family now. Maybe she wants to distance herself from that. Like, I get it.
I can only imagine that she got ripped apart for that. She's an artist and she has a gallery web page of her photography. She has several different pages that are showcasing her different exhibits of her portfolio. And apparently, however many years ago, the art from the book had its own dedicated page, and that is down now. So when I read comments within the articles that she did interviews for, people are not,
they're not kind.
People were not nice.
No. just the two positions that we have found were so creative and inventive. I was so entertained. I want to see what other positions the elves showed her. I'm very curious. So I'm really glad that my handle still says Elf Curious, because I did want to give an update. I worked murderers. I worked wanderers. I really tried. And I think it's time to lay it down. I'm just not going to find this book. And that's a shame.
Anyway, well, good effort, though.
If anybody finds themselves in the Reykjavik library,
take some pictures.
Take pictures.
Find the book and, take some pictures. Send it
Email
to
us.
Photocopy it.
Oh, also, a tiny, tiny little update. Life happened to Cameron. He'll be back when he's back. Just so you know.
Yeah.
He'll have a lot of news to share when he does finally come back. So you'll all understand. Okay. It is International Women's Day. Is it Women's Day?
It's Women's History Month. And that is probably specific to America.
Women's Day is actually March 8th.
But it is Women's History Month. And so this is still extremely fitting.
Yeah.
So back to witchcraft. Witchcraft is heavily female-centric, at least in comparison to mainstream religion. I think that's safe to say. And the very literal trials and tribulations and executions were very female-centric.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really great and important topic for this month. So
and that's
it's a good
not
choice.
To alienate any male witches. I'm not going to even pretend to know the proper terminology because I don't, at least not yet. But this is an important topic for women because of all of the crap that women had to go through regarding this particular topic.
That would be really cool if you all wanted to write to us and let us know if any of you are practitioners of witchcraft or occult craft. Because if you are, then you know that a very heavy hand in it is equal worship of gods and goddesses, if not a lot of special emphasis on goddesses and lots of priestesses in witchcraft, which is really cool. It's a very, very equality driven religion or practice, and it celebrates the masculine and feminine within every individual, every goddess, everything. So
I love it.
Don't feel minimized.
It's very female empowered. I think it's very personally empowered, whoever you are, whatever your gender.
Right.
Or if you're gender fluid.
If you're not very well in touch with the feminine within yourself, don't worry about release that programming and find it's okay to have, I don't know, a clean, well-decorated apartment, or to be if you're well-groomed and dressed great and smell good, all that, that, you could call that your divine feminine side. If
I've actually never understood the arbitrary assignment of certain qualities to either male or female.
Right, exactly. And it could very much be my programming where I'm I guess this is what
men are stinky, women are clean.
I'll tell you, my astrological signs have me as more leaning feminine than masculine. So there are traits of myself that are a little bit more feminine than, say, masculine. So
For whatever that means.
Do you feel like that is accurate and you identify with that? Like you own it and you feel it?
I've owned it for a long time. And the interesting part about that too is that my wife has a lot more masculine traits than I do, or, you know, different. Like, so we are in a sense kind of opposite in that way, but she also does have her feminine parts, you know, sides as well.
Yeah.
But it's a mix of both for both of us. Because, you know, I'm a man.
Right. Yeah, there's always a balance. It's the yin and yang, the masculine, feminine.
Yeah. Well, sorry to mislead you, Wanderers. We're definitely not going to talk about actual witchcraft practices. Maybe a little bit.
I think just the concepts of witchcraft. What is it all about? How does it compare, right? I mean,
I've kind of gone more historical.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more into the history. So I just want to temper your expectations. This is not necessarily an episode that explores practices.
Right.
We're setting the stage for that for future episodes, though, I think.
History.
Yes.
It's more about the history. So
the explanation of what it's all about so that maybe we can help you shed some stigma and help you understand some of the terminology, the history, and the mechanics of it, I guess.
And maybe understand where the stigma comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we each, three of us, have spent quite a bit of time doing our own independent research. So I was wondering if each of us could talk a little bit about what was the research that you did so that our listeners kind of know what is informing our discussion as it unfolds later.
I kind of researched into the earliest writings of witchcraft. What was the earliest writings? Where did it come from? What was the first mention of it? And that takes me to Mesopotamia, which is modern day Iraq and that area.
Oh.
Modern day Iraq encompassing Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian cultures.
Neat. Cool.
I read, and here for the YouTube channel that's coming soon, Witches of America by Alex Marr. I both checked out the hard copy from the library, and my library also had the audiobook available. And so I was able to do both.
Nice.
Back and forth. I don't think it was really that long of a book, but I want to say that the audiobook was like 12 hours. And it took me like 2 weeks to finish it, but it was worth it to get all the way through it. She did a really great, well-rounded job talking about the origins or the best guesses of the origins of witchcraft in America. And furthermore, I mean, she went in first person and participated at a number of festivals and conventions, and even became a student of one of the wings of witchcraft, more than one even, and she really describes her process of going and speaking with the different members of the different types of witchcraft all throughout America, and her gravitation towards certain ones and her experiences training under them. And it was really great read.
That's awesome.
I also learned a little, I went a little more into some of the craft-ish focus type books, like, how you might cleanse and decorate your home with witchcraft and your astrology. How are you going to succeed the best kind of books too. So those were cool. So I'm very well primed to talk about the concepts of witchcraft in America today.
That's awesome. For myself, the research I did, I have read this book called Saith, The Gate is Open by Katie Gerard, actually a couple of times. And I have the audiobook and I've listened to it several times. In that, depending on what country, which Scandinavian country you're in will actually determine how this is pronounced. So it could be Saith, Sather, or Seath, depending on where you're at. So I checked everyone. There are multiple ways to pronounce it, depending on where you are.
Did you spell it? Because
Cedar?
Saith,
yeah.
S-E-I.
I don't know.
S-E-I-D-R is like the English, but like in the actual like Scandinavian, it's like a weird little rounded D with a line through the top.
Oh, that would be
Saith.
Norwegian.
Yeah, but there's, depending on what country, like Icelandic or Swedish or whatever, you would pronounce it a little differently. Anyway, So going, through like kind of a Scandinavian perspective, I learned a little bit about the Great Noise in some of the witch hunts, just kind of what I know about the vulva. And I also was very interested to kind of understand what actually is witchcraft. From an anthropological perspective, how do we define what witchcraft is? Because I come from learning mostly about shamanic practices. To me, I have a very clear definition of what it means for something to be shamanic. But then when I think about what witchcraft is, there are in some ways a lot of bleed over. So like, how do you really define and separate out what these two things are? So I did a lot of looking into different anthropological articles. I read a breakdown of Margaret Murray's theory of what witchcraft was, which was debunked, everyone. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from, like a lot of historical and some of more Scandinavian kind of history, and just trying to understand anthropologically what it is. I also looked at some more modern impacts and ideas about witchcraft from non-Wicca or people who would not consider themselves witches at all. We wanted to give you that groundwork, and JT, I think it might be time. You want to
say the magic words?
Time to plug your social media.
Indeed. Hey, murderers, if you like the cut of our jib, please subscribe to our channel and leave a 5-star review through whichever platform you stream our episodes. If you'd like to help us grow, then please download, like, share, and comment on our episodes. If you have any feedback or paranormal stories you'd like to hear featured on an episode, you can contact us a number of ways. We have an email, a Facebook, an Instagram, a website, and even a phone number. Links to all of those are always shared in the episode description. Now, without further delay, back to the episode.
Okay, first question, everyone. I was actually a little bit triggered when we started doing the research for this. And here's what it was. What did you guys all think of the episode intro and that very first sentence? And to refresh your memory, witchcraft, understood as the practice or belief in malevolent, harmful magic, has no single point of origin. What did you guys think of that definition of what witchcraft is?
I misunderstood it at first. Seeing it in writing, I thought that it was saying witchcraft, nobody understands how it as a form of malevolent magic as an idea came to be. Like, what are the origins of that sort of cultural outlook on it? And you informed me that that is somewhere, somehow, an actual definition of it, which I was not aware of. I was like, oh, what? I automatically was like, well, I strongly disagree. I think that's a bunch of, like, who says?
When I get into what I researched, it may make a lot more sense. Malevolent or harmful magic. And if you look into Disney's early cartoons, what were they? What did they always have? They always had a wicked witch.
Oh.
Snow White had, the evil queen that turned into the old lady with the poison apple.
Yeah.
You had, I don't know, you name the,
Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty had the good fairies, and then they had the witch, I mean, so there's this idea of this evilness that is synonymous with witch or warlock or magic. And we're not really talking about magic per se, but witchcraft.
I actually hated it. Wikipedia is usually the place I usually start when I do my research, just to give me some ideas of how to like specialize and refine my search terms. And it's literally the first sentence on Wikipedia. The most common meaning of witchcraft worldwide is the use of harmful magic. And the word itself is over 1,000 years old, and it actually means witchcraft. And
which word means witchcraft?
Witchcraft, it's Wicca-craft. It's an old English word. Witchcraft.
Okay.
And that means witchcraft, the
Oh.
crafting of witches.
Mm-hmm.
And so historically, this is why I went down the route of anthropology. Like, this can't possibly be true, first of all. Second of all, how come other assholes get to define what practitioners are actually doing? How come they get to label it as evil and harmful when the practitioners themselves don't necessarily? But what we're talking about is the term and not necessarily the practice. And this is how it starts. Like, this is how the persecution starts. Throughout history, whenever some bad shit happens to somebody, they always got to figure out who did it. It's not that it just like happened just as a matter of chance, but obviously someone caused this misfortune. And the misfortune itself, or the action of creating the misfortune, was considered witchcraft. And in the general kind of research I did, there were two kinds of witchcraft. Or there were two kinds of magic. There was witchcraft, which was bad and evil. And then there were the kinds of things that the wise people did and the healing work and the herbalism. And those were considered kind of a good kind of magic. Those were not witchcraft.
Right.
That was like healing, herbalism, wise woman stuff.
Over and over again, what I read or was told, I also started listening to something like Buckland's Witchcraft, and he has a different take on the long history of witchcraft, which seems to be widely refuted by a lot of people as not being accurate. And he even says that like a lot of people refute what this one person says, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Point being, though, and this part I think he's accurate about, because I have heard it across the board over and over again, is that it's the same old story. It's what we've heard over and over again about paganism. Witchcraft, basically, it was pagans, and the rituals and the rites and the craft that they performed. And then as Christianity developed and you got more and more people in power wanting people to convert to Christianity, then it became, they took the image of, Pan, the god that they worship, and they said that, hey, guess what a weird coincidence, the devil looks just like Pan. They're worshiping the devil, and et cetera, et cetera. So they just took their beliefs, and flipped the script on it, and just turned it into this, like, they're worshiping the wrong god. They're bad. Switch to this thing. And there's a lot that goes into that. And I don't know how far it's interesting how much sexual repression is a part of that. Because we all know that how sexually oppressive Christianity can be as a religion. And that was very much on purpose at some point. Even in the Valentine's episode, we talk about how that Roman emperor, again, details, who needs them, was trying to build an army, and he did not want people having families. He did not want people getting married and having attachments. And so it was literally written into this religion to suppress and discourage people from having sex, for instance. And so goodbye, all of you sex deities. Goodbye, all of this other stuff going on. Goodbye, sex magic. Goodbye, rituals celebrating fertility for the crops, etc., etc. So the whole thing is just so huge. It seems like there was tenfold reasons why it ended up unfolding that way, but it was just the classic government control for their own agenda kind of situation. That's my take on it, on the process of snuffing all of these alternative, occult, pagan religions.
Well, that's actually a great segue. So the next question then is, what actually was witchcraft historically in various places around the world? What so far can we prove? What do we know? And does it tie into paganism and other animistic practices? And if so, how? And that's obviously like pre-Christianity. So JT, I'm actually curious to know, what did witchcraft look like in Mesopotamia?
Okay, so what I found, and this goes really far back, there's writings that they found in cuneiform tablets, and they're as early as the mid-3rd millennium BCE. BCE is basically BC, BCE is
Before Common Era?
Before Common Era, or what I grew up remembering it as is before Christ. But
yeah,
I didn't get the memo that it had changed, and so I had to look that up.
Let's just add the E and change the words. That way it's easier for everyone.
So this is Sumerian, early Akkadian examples from sites like Elba and Babylonian locations. There's the Code of Hammurabi, and then there's the Malklu, Maqlu. But before I go into those specifically, there were other beliefs of harmful magic in, like, there's a biblical reference where the witch of Endor, it's 1 Samuel text that were composed 931 to 721 BCE, summons the prophet Samuel's spirit for King Saul.
Mm.
And then there's Exodus 22:18 famously commands, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live."
Yep, I remember that one. I came across that in my readings.
Damn.
Ancient Greece has Circe in Homer's Odyssey. She transforms men into animals, into pigs.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
Greek curse tablets were used to bind enemies, often in legal or athletic contexts, invoking the dead. Ancient Rome, laws against veneficum from 12 tables, 5th century BCE onward, mass executions for magic-induced epidemics. We'll go into that stuff later, but there are many historians and anthropologists that link the concept to prehistoric shamanism, Paleolithic or Neolithic practices involving trance, spirit journeys, healing, and influence over nature. In this view, the witch archetype evolved from or alongside shaman-like figures who could be benevolent, cunning folk, or wise healers, or malevolent depending on context. So what I want to do is go back to these cuneiform tablets. So cuneiform tablets were the ancient way of writing in Mesopotamia. Basically clay slabs etched with wedge-shaped marks. Using a reed stylus, they're called cuneiform because the marks look like little wedges. In Latin for wedge is cuneus, and this started around 3200 BCE. And they use these tablets to record everything: laws, stories, business deals, recipes. Writers pressed the stylus into wet clay, creating symbols that stood for words, syllabuses, or ideas, and the clay was baked or left to dry, making them super durable. Some last thousands of years. So for the witchcraft, let's take the Malleus series, for example. It's a set of 9 clay tablets written in Akkadian cuneiform, packed with anti-witchcraft spells from ancient Mesopotamia. So the only writings that we have that far back of witchcraft are anti-witchcraft, right. How to get away from witches,
Interesting.
That's very hypocritical and interesting.
They date back to around the 1st millennium BCE, but pull from older traditions. The text about protecting people from evil magic. Think detailed rituals where a priest burns a witch's effigy, recites incantations, and calls on God like Samas to break spells. It describes witches as sneaky, using harmful magic called kitsbu, often through potions or curses. The tablets even list steps: purifying the victim, naming the witch's evil, and sealing it with divine power. So these were read aloud by exorcists or the asipu to nullify the threat. Let's see. So I want to go into, so what a witch was called back then was called the kasaptu. And but that's if a female, if a woman was a witch, she was a kasaptu. But if it was a male, it was a kasapu. They're both spelled the same, Kassaptu for the women, and then no T for the men, Kassapu. So that's on the tablet, and that's what the witches were. They were sneaky, vengeful, and that's kind of the earliest writings. But there was another one too. Where did that go? The Code of Hammurabi, which is another cuneiform tablet that's carved around 1800 BCE, and this comes way before the Kushite kingdom, which rose up south of Egypt in what's now Sudan, and it started about 76 BCE. Hamburi was a Babylonian ruling in Mesopotamia, while Cush was Nubian. And I don't know what that means exactly, but it's pharaohs and pyramids, and it kind of connects to all that. So that code, so that code talked about the Kushi rituals against evil magic. So this still is talking about the way to get over all of this evil magic, but there's no writings of any of these actual evil things that they did.
The causing magic, like the source.
Right, the causing magic.
The causing of evil, the witchcraft, if we're going to use that term.
Right, That's witchcraft. So
really interesting.
Their gods, there was like a lion head warrior, and to ward off curses or hexes, they would invoke this god. They'd bury tiny figurines or scarabs with spells scratched on them, meant to trap bad spirits or bounce the harm back. Like, you're going to try to hex me or whatever. I'm going to write your hex in a little figure and bury it, and it's going to bounce back at you. Priests did ceremonies with incense, chants, sometimes at pyramids or temples, to keep the supernatural in check.
For the research that I did, what I know is, or at least what I had read regarding anthropological stories and historical understandings of witchcraft, is that there were pagans, there were druids, there were these other systems of belief that were animistic and had magic, but the sorcerers and the witches themselves might have been just solitary practitioners within those groups, within them, and that they didn't have anything necessarily organized per se. And that is something that when I was reading about this Margaret Murray, who we'll get to in a little bit, she argued for the very opposite. She thought that there were large groups of very organized, like this proto-religion that was primarily female, that was all witchcraft, and that the priestesses were the witches and they were protecting all of this ancient knowledge or whatever. That was her argument. That's what she believed. But from what I can tell, anthropologically, historically, and archaeology, that cannot be proven, and it has largely been debunked. And what we know of is that there were just these singular groups and maybe like lineages passed down one to next, one generation to the next, but not large witchcraft cults or anything like that. Except, here I have the Poetic Edda. And this book was written about 1,000 years ago, and it's based on stories that existed for hundreds, maybe thousands of years before it was actually written. So this was actually written by a Christian person, so it's kind of got some of his biases in it. But the Voluspa itself, part of the Poetic Edda, the very premise of it is that Odin, a practicer of witchcraft, a practicer of magic, a god, he performed necromancy and summoned a vulva. He summoned a witch, and he wanted information from her. the whole entire poem is her proving to him how much she knows. Odin, I remember a time back before there was a world. Odin, I remember all of the giants. I remember the 9 realms. I can see the tree and the 3 fates. She's telling the prophecy of Ragnarok in the Voluspa. That's what the whole thing is. The Voluspa is itself supposedly an accounting from a witch. And so the vulvas were built into like the fabric of a lot of the storytelling. Odin himself is said to have learned magics that were primarily meant for women. And he was something of a rebel in that regard because he had such a drive and a thirst for knowledge. He didn't care if it was mostly just for women. He wanted to know. He wanted every advantage he could get. And so he learned from the other tribes and from, God, I think it was supposedly Freya taught him the magics, these female magics. Sather, this book, The Gate is Open, talks about the origins. So Saith is another kind of practice of magic. And it's said that the vulva was part of, a vulva might practice Saith, or a Saith practitioner might just be called like a Saith practitioner. But what we know about it has had to be reconstructed because once Christianity kind of came on the scene, a lot of this was lost. So all of the knowledge that we have about Saith currently has been quote unquote recovered. And by that means that people have looked at old records and old stories and kind of pieced things together and then had rituals and ceremonies and spoken to spirits and tried to retrieve old practices that were once lost. And what's fascinating about Saith is actually a group practice. You can do it as an individual practitioner, but a lot of the rites require a group. So Saith itself is a kind of trance work that requires one person who's holding the staff and actually doing the trance, a group of others to hold the energy and sing the songs, sing the person into the trance. And then others still who are there to kind of hold other spirits at bay and doing things like, so it's doing things to kind of create the setting in which the staff holder, the vulva, can actually see what's happening and get the answers to whatever the question was that was being asked. And according to this, which, I have no way of knowing exactly what her sources are because I didn't double check her sources here. It was known that the vulva or the Saith, could be called and asked to perform certain rites. Why is my crop failing? Can you heal my animals? Like, it was usually used a lot by like farmers and rural people to help with issues that they had, and that they would do that. And that there were troops of them that would wander around from place to place offering their services in this way. And it was just a known thing, apparently. But that's unusual, and it possibly driven by some of the ways that we now understand witchcraft now. And there is like a popular narrative among lay people about what witchcraft might have been, and perhaps that informed the retrieval,
retroactively applying the name and the
so like, what do we really know to be true and what do we not? Saith itself is fascinating, and I have read this book several times, and there's a lot of practices that to me that definitely overlap with shamanism.
I'm hearing basically she's a soothsayer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing, she's a crone. And I'm writing my notes down because I have been patiently trying not to cut everybody off. But we've kind of just been snowballing. So I want to go back to JT's things real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
And I'll get back right to where Mandy is.
Go for it.
I love that JT talks about how there's this contradiction and this seeming total loss of irony on people, that the very thing that they're villainizing, the craft, the magic, the whatever, is something that they do and practice. And this is actually a very common thing that I see a lot of like spicy crones on social media resort to. I think defensively. I think that they probably get people snarkily calling them, you know, evil or devil worshippers or whatever when they share their craft on social media. And so I've seen numerous different accounts where people will point out, like, excuse me, when you go to a Catholic church, they're burning frankincense because the smoke carries the prayers to heaven. When you apparently believe in transmutation and blood magic because you not only believe that this juice is subtransmutable into the blood of Christ, but then you're drinking it on top of that to bring him in and bring his power and magic into you.
The priests have to wear special clothes and amulets. That's one I can think of right off the top of my head. There is prescribed prayers for certain times.
Okay, that was another one. The group worship, right?
Group worship.
This is part of the, you know, a common belief about witchcraft is that you're more powerful as a group, as a coven. And certainly Christianity seems to believe this. The bigger, the better.
Oh, I remember necromancy. Our God rises from the dead, and the chosen few in the resurrection are going to rise from the dead.
That's all very, very magical and mystical. So I love hearing you give those examples, JT, and I think that that's great, and it really was a great setup. And then Mandy, I don't know if this either, like, if it adds to or if it's what you were already trying to say, but this guy, the Buckland book that I read, he did say, and I do believe that this is probably true, that it may not have been one proto-religion necessarily, but something that we do know anthropologically is that all society started in one place and slowly nomadically spread. And language evolved, and likely as the oral tradition was given, details of the stories changed and evolved, and especially for geographic purposes, the stories probably change according to the geography and their experiences, right? If we want to go ahead and just say that the magic and the things that they were experiencing and speaking of were real, then new stories can be born all the time. But furthermore, I've also heard there's a lot of scholarly discussion about part of the reason why women apparently live longer. We are like genetically evolved to live longer because we are the storytellers, because we are the ones who carry the oral tradition. And when you were talking about Odin's, the Edda, and how knowledge, wisdom was typically something associated with women, and Odin didn't care, he wanted it. I mean, I think that's admirable and great, but that did bring me to this modern understanding that this is a real phenomenon that we're trying to study and understand even now. And so it all kind of ties together and makes sense. I think I just wanted to stop you so I could make those points before we continued going.
I would like to clarify one thing.
Okay.
So with the tablets I was talking about, there's the Code of Hammurabi. That is the oldest, carved around 1800 BCE. And then the Maklu tablets came a couple years later. But they're from the same kind of area region. But they were basically texts on how to ward off witchcraft, how to protect yourself. They were protections.
Use magic to ward off the magic.
Exactly. I mean,
so interesting.
To block magic, you burn an effigy of the person you think is magical.
Hey,
what does that sound like?
Sounds like witchcraft. We said we weren't going to get into the craft, but one of the simplest spells you can do is to, I think, with fire, if that's your thing, you write down on a piece of paper what your wishes or intentions, or I don't know if I've got it wrong, if it's supposed to be what you want for yourself or energy that you want to get rid of, but then you burn that, releasing the intention into the universe, blah blah blah. That sounds like
the idea. Full moon.
Oh no. watch yourselves, everybody. It'll be most effective, probably. But essentially an effigy, right? Like, I mean, I think that's the point you're getting at, is that's, it is, you're releasing your intention into the universe.
So I want to also make this clear as well. These were not fairy tales.
No, this was real.
These were they shaped how humans feared the unseen, and that spread over time.
What I think is very, very the most interesting thing about this is that on the one hand, JT, your research is pointing to how the witchcraft was so feared that what
Even
they felt
back
was
then,
important to write down were remedies against it, were the protections against. That was the important information, the most important. Whereas with the Scandinavians, what they wanted to write down was how witchcraft was useful, the ways that they used it to get the information that they needed to be the wisest and to make the best choices and to take advantage of what was going on around them. I think that's kind of an interesting difference in the perspectives. And I don't know what the explanation is for that necessarily. I mean, obviously it's something cultural, but that's fascinating to me.
It's just like Christianity now, and people like throwing shade at anybody practicing magic and like not even understanding that when they go to church, they're doing all the same magic. It's the same. It's just the irony is lost on them. And theirs is correct. They're programmed. Ours is right and yours is wrong. You're evil.
Oh, I can't wait.
Sounds
to
like
talk to you
that
about this
was
stuff.
the idea behind those tablets. We
Mm-hmm.
erased
Yeah.
the history of what they were doing, whether it was good or bad. All we need to record, like you said, Mandy, is the be afraid, and here's how to stop it.
Witches are too powerful. Here's how you can undo it and protect yourself, which I think is a fantastic segue. Witch hunts, everyone. So I think to summarize, what we know about witches in prehistory is limited and is unfortunately colored by our programming now. But I think it's safe to say that probably there were individuals out there at all times, what we can know, who were practicing some form of magic, and that there were lots and lots of people out there who were distrustful and felt that calamities were the result of bad use of magic, bad witchcraft. And so the witch hunts happen. And I'm sure they probably happened many, many, many times throughout history. I don't know. I think yours maybe...
The tablets is... I have the oldest witch hunt.
Perfect.
Written on these tablets, and that's the Code of Hammurabi, or the Hammurabi Trials for witchcraft. So there was a specific test that you could do to prove whether somebody was a witch or not. So someone would accuse you of being a witch, and you would get tossed into the Euphrates River. And if you sank and drowned, you were guilty. And the accuser would get all of your stuff. Now, if you floated and survived,
you were guilty.
You were
double
not
execution.
Guilty.
Oh yeah,
you were not guilty. So if you floated in the river and you survived that being tossed in the river,
because
you were not guilty, and you were not a witch.
Our correct God's love lifted you up. Like, what is it? Do you know the mindset?
Well, this is the trial. So this is still in the trial. Like, okay, so someone accuses you, you get thrown in, you drown, you were a witch. You get thrown in, you don't drown, you survive, and your accuser gets the death penalty.
Oh.
Those are the trials.
I actually kind of like that.
I mean, I guess. How many times did they drown because they just didn't know how to freaking swim? Because they had all those evil things in the water. Stay away from the water stories back then, everyone. Remember sirens and all the like.
So that's the oldest witch trials that I found. And this was, this is Euphrates River. That's Egypt, right?
There was one witchcraft test that I read about in Europe where they would feed someone something that was poisoned. And if they vomited If they vomited it out and they were okay, then they were definitely a witch. If they ate it and they were okay, then they were definitely a witch. Like, so like if no matter how they got to being okay, they were definitely a witch. If they died, they were not a witch.
Those are some high stakes, dude. But a price,
Damn.
a price the judicial system was willing to pay. Sheesh. To be rid one more witch, potentially.
That swimming test, I read that also existed.
So obviously, a lot of people were managing to throw up, like possibly, and
I
then
don't know,
getting executed.
Yeah, maybe,
right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how did they come to develop that system in the first? It makes you think their bodies were expelling the things the way our bodies do, diarrhea and vomit.
Mm-hmm.
And they were their immune systems were doing their jobs for them, which sucks because evolutionarily, like that would be very useful to keep those people in the gene pool.
You're right. Nope, can't have that.
Oh,
Anyway,
you and your strong stomach, god damn it.
Sorry, JT, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just that really reminded me. You're right, though, Abby. Gene pool. We needed those people.
The other thing that I could mention is just, I was trying to figure out what did the witches actually practice back in the day? What were they trying to protect themselves on? And you can only surmise that based on the protections that were written. So there was binding magic, binding the victim's life force, limbs, or fate, causing paralysis, impotence, or tying up their success in business or love. So impotence is like men only explain their impotence from being hexed by a witch.
Oh my God.
It's the woman's
evil
fault.
Speech.
I feel like we haven't gotten that far away from this. Oh my God.
No. Evil speech and slander, uttering curses, speaking ill before gods or people to estrange the victim from divine favor or social support. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Do we do that in today's world? We totally do. We just don't call it witchcraft.
What do we call it?
Well, it's called slander. I mean,
yeah.
You
saying the God's
talk shit
name
about
in
people all the
vain
time.
And
just
people sending hate mail.
You can listen to the news and you can hear it all day long.
All right.
There was the evil eye or the malevolent gaze.
Yeah.
Staring or glaring to inflict harm. Poisons, ointments, bewitched substances, figurines and effigies, sending demons or ghosts, invoking or allying with evil spirits, ghosts, or demons to attack the victim. Shape-shifting or ecstatic elements. In some descriptions, witches were portrayed as roaming at night, transforming, or using trance-like states. And then, of course, necromancy.
Yeah. The shape-shifting things supposedly can still happen today.
All this stuff was the same thousands of years ago that we can find.
Mm-hmm.
And the trials weren't much different for a very long time.
I was just going to very quickly share what I know about the American Salem witch trials in one freaking sentence, which is that there is no clear historical support that shows that anyone ever was practicing witchcraft at the time that any of those trials ever happened. For all of the hundreds or thousands of people who were murdered in this country in the witch trials, there's no known history of witchcraft ever being practiced.
Yeah, I believe it.
What year was that done? What year was the Salem witch trials? Do you remember?
I think it was just slightly after the witch hunts in Europe.
Yeah. It was the worldwide witch hunt was really happening, interestingly enough, transcontinentally.
So I think that it had been going on in Europe for some time, and it sort of made its way over to the Americas at the tail end, but they were concurrent a little bit. So I want to say it was early 1700s, late 1600s, but I don't remember exactly.
Okay. Do we know where this came from? I would call that the modern witch trial version.
What do you mean?
Where the trials came from, the witch trials. From the early 15th to the 18th century.
So what I was reading, because in Sweden they had this thing called the Great Noise, and it was part of and during the time frame when Europe was going through massive witch trials everywhere. And so part of the background that was provided as I was doing that research was that worldwide there had been like a little mini ice age. Like there had been kind of a freeze off, like significant climate change. So the crops had been poor. The cattle were not reproducing the way that they normally would have been if the weather had been right. There was increased poverty, fear. There were outbreaks of plague. And then also in the background, the Christian denominations are having massive amounts of infighting, and there's lots of control struggles. So like you've got the Catholic Church, and then now you've got the Lutherans and the Lutheran Reformation, and you've got all of these other like denominations of Christians who are saying, we are right. We are right. Mm-hmm. We've got this. And they're each in their own ways seeking control amid a background of a lot of turmoil and unrest and desperation among the people. And so I just want to say, many of the accused in the Great Noise came from families who were already in legal conflict with their accusers over money. So there was already a lot of social pressure, religious pressure, and all of these other things. And then around the same time, we have this book which is printed, and that was also another big deal. The printing press had just been invented. So now we are able to have information processed and spread at rapid fire speeds, which had never before been seen. And one of them is the Malleus Maleficarum. I don't know if you wanted to talk about it, JT.
I did a little bit. It's Latin for hammer of witches. And it was written by clergyman Heinrich Kramer in 1486 and then published in 1487. And it served as a handbook for identifying, prosecuting, and punishing witches. It kind of was part of that whole fueling of widespread European witch hunts, especially targeting women, and endorsing torture to obtain confessions. The books basically was
forced, tortured confession, air quotes, confessions.
Yeah, so it was basically divided up into 3 parts. So it covers the devil's connection to sorcery, how witches cause harm, including killing children and causing impotence.
Oh my God.
Hello.
That evil, evil impotence.
And legal procedures for trials.
Do you know what else was in the Malleus Maleficarum? This is a part I actually highlighted it because I just loved it so much. Ready, everybody? The Malleus Maleficarum also explains why women are more likely to be witches than men. Their flesh is lecherous and their minds feeble.
Excellent.
Yes. 9 out of 10 experts agree women are lecherous and their minds are feeble. So therefore,
so threatening.
They just can't help it.
Let's kill them all with their feeble brains operating their shitty, stupid magic. That they didn't even believe themselves. But that's such a classic power. That's so
These
frustrating.
Dumb, stupid women and their ability to control us completely.
The communication from the government and the manipulation and how well it shockingly works, and just how the story hasn't changed. You guys, I'm sorry. I don't mean to get political, but fuck.
It's not even, it's just men being shitty.
It's just shitty.
And insecure.
It's just a classic move
and the problem is a lot of people were greedy and they wanted other people's property and they were desperate. Desperate times.
There was incentive.
And so it was a really good reason and excuse. Anyway,
this
JT,
book
sorry.
was not officially endorsed by the Catholic Church.
Oh, not officially. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, guys.
It was widely used and spread rapidly thanks to the invention of the printing press. So it's still in print.
Well, and let's not forget that, like Mandy said, there was a lot of other Christian denominations around. You didn't have to be the Catholic Church.
No. And what's a really great way to demonstrate your authority and legitimacy? Uncover a bunch of witches doing some bad shit and then put a stop to it.
We just
what
saved
a fantastic way. I saved your ass. I know what I'm talking about. Follow me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys want to hear a story?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. In Sweden, and mostly in Sweden is kind of where I focus this. It's believed that witches were able to fly, and there's this place called the Blokula, where it's like this island where the devil lives, and witches would go there for their Sabbath and, like, I don't know, do weird witch shit with the devil, right? Like bad, crazy, evil things. So I wanted to read you an excerpt from, here it is. I'm going to read this. The year is 1673. The place is the small village of Hamre, Hälsingland, Sweden. I probably butchered that, sorry. It is a mid-September day in the season of harvest, and Kirsten Larsdottir, a mother with her family, are hard at work preparing for the upcoming winter. A terrible knocking at the door interrupts their labor. Watching the solemn group of men who enter, it is possible Kirsten Larsdottir knew right away. She could not have missed the news from other villages. She has heard about the ordeals of torture and the flames of the pyre. They are hunting witches. Accused, she falls to her knees. Her husband and children embrace her as she cries out, "Perhaps I will never come home to you ever again." So Kirsten's hearing lasted 4 days. 54 children and other suspects accused her. They declared that she had taken them to the witches' Sabbath, the Blokula, a place thought of as both physical and spiritual, where witches were said to copulate with the devil. So one boy informed the court that Kirsten gave him food that was in fact a living snake, and after eating, he could feel the snake twisting in his stomach. He testified that an angel appeared to him and said that the only way he could rid himself of the snake was to confess everything to the parish priest, and that after he did this, a snake crawled from his mouth. The boy's parents and 2 other adults confirmed this tale. One girl swore that at the Blokula, Satan spoke through Kirsten as serpents writhed about her neck. Other children told the court that black angels forced them to turn their backs to the altar and to curse the Holy Communion with evil words from a black book. Cursed be the Father, the Mother, and everything that dwells on earth. I guess around this time, they weren't actually initially allowing testimony from children, but with the Malleus Maleficarum out and all of this fear and like this pressure, they decided they actually had set up a system of how these trials were supposed to go. But for this, they were allowing children to testify. And initially, torture wasn't allowed, except, hold on, let me see if I can find this explanation.
Oh my gosh, this started in Mora.
Yeah.
That's where where a lot of the little horses are made.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a clock from Mora. It's a Mora clock made in the town where the Great Noise started.
Yes. Remember? So we talked about that in Alien Abductions.
Yeah, I remember. Your story was crazy.
Because
I love that story.
John Keel found all of these stories throughout history of like huge groups of children disappearing. Little did I know he was kind of like changing the context of them a little bit. But yeah, he did make the connection that a lot of it was like during witch hunts and blah, blah, blah. And they were being accused of magic. And then he was like, but I think it was aliens. Anyway, so this is Mora, Sweden, where what is this called? The Great Noise?
The Great Noise. And actually, the Great Noise, their witch trial started before the Great Noise.
Oh, okay.
And there is one singular story that I guess is pointed to as the first accusation of witchcraft, which really started the snowball spiral. So in 1668, a young boy accused a shepherd girl named Gertrude Svensdottir. He stated that he had seen her walk on water while herding goats at the Fabod, the summer farm, which is interesting because Jesus walked on water. So why is that bad? I don't get it.
Right.
I don't get it. Anyway, the parish priest, who was a deep believer of Satan's works through witches, conducted a trial against her. She was sentenced to death. She was 12. Later, the court altered her punishment and that of several other children just to flogging. At her trial, Gertrude accused 19 other village women of attending the witches' Sabbath. They in turn pointed out even more witches, and then it just kept spreading like wildfire, and then hysteria kind of ensued. It became such a problem, the Swedish government Understanding that a divided and socially infected society is more likely not to follow laws and pay taxes, oh boy, can't have them not paying taxes, quickly established a commission of priests and lawyers to assist local courts with the trials. The commission traveled to the most witch-infested areas in order to free the nation from the fury of Satan. To protect children from the claws of evil and save the nation from God's eternal damnation, many village councils and courts pushed past accepted statutory procedure. Previously, torture had been forbidden. The Court of Appeal needed to confirm the sentence in order to actually execute them. But in order to actually get the sentence confirmed, you had to have indisputable evidence, which meant a confession. Therefore, authorities deemed torture necessary because they needed that first-person account, yes, I did it, in order to be able to get that person executed. So they're like, well, fuck the rules. We need this torture because otherwise, how are we actually going to execute these people for their crimes?
And, as you're talking and we keep talking about Satan and the devil and what is that and blah, 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 I would like to point out, listeners, whatever you believe in, I do get the feeling that this is probably all coming off as pretty biased against Christianity and its role in this. We don't feel that way about everybody, but it is really important to remember, and we've talked about this. There are episodes, Mandy, you're going to have to remind me after I jog your memory into what this is all about. Satan was an angel. He was he was God's number one angel.
I think we talked about it in the Lilin.
He didn't look like the way he is described as looking. Remember,
he was the most beautiful.
They took the imagery of the God that was being worshipped by, people of their oppositional religion and said, that's what Satan looked like. Okay. Satan, JT had talked about how, Satan's whole deal was that he wanted to make sure people were being good. He wanted to basically shepherd people into being good. And God said, no, they need free will. And Satan was like, well, what the hell? And the hilarious thing about that version of Satan, or at least, and I don't know how many variations of that origin story there are, but according to the Mormon origin story, as I recall from hearing JT tell it in another episode, it's funny because it's like Satan wanted everybody to be good. Mm-hmm. Satan wanted everybody to behave.
He's like God's best soldier.
His whole so this definition of what is evil, this definition of the devil and Satan has moved so far to just be, he's a villain. And honestly, what these people are doing over here, this is evil and they're all Satan worshippers.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
I can't understand the cognitive dissonance that it requires to accuse someone else of evil so that you can perpetrate the most terrible evil imaginable.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So I don't feel bad at all. I don't think any of us feels bad. If anybody listening feels like we're attacking you, then just please reflect inward and just hear what we're saying. Because we are telling you what happened, what it is, the different variations of how it all started. I mean, this is the real history of these stories. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how frustrating it is to know and understand how many Christians don't even know the name of their own God, but they'll be like pissed off, that somebody else is worshiping a different God. And in my opinion, that's really what it all comes down to.
Do you know what's funny? I one time got into an argument with a Christian online who was talking about Muslim people and how, well, they're worshiping the wrong God anyway. I'm like, you idiot. It's the same God.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not. What are you talking
doing
about?
It the wrong way.
Like, do you not understand your own biblical history?
Right.
Don't you know?
Read the Quran?
Have you read the Bible?
You not know there's some similar stories as the Bible?
Right.
It's even literally in the Bible where the Muslim religion comes from and the Jewish religion. So like, what?
Yeah.
Christians, do better.
It's the arrogance of people willing to argue like that, just regurgitated. They are the reason why it was so easy for these witch trials and for this conversion to happen, because they just ate it right out of the palms of leadership and just believed it and never questioned it, never bothered to fact check when it's right there in front of them.
Can I be honest about something?
Sure.
The reason this podcast exists is because of how upset and angry I got listening to other paranormal podcasts who were talking from a Christian perspective, who talked about how if it's not an angel, then it must be something evil and it's the devil. Or like there's different, like The Haunted, Paranormal Witness. Like there are certain shows where after a while they run out of content. And so all they're doing is they're sending these paranormal teams out to investigate. And inevitably one person in that team becomes possessed by a demon. And then they're conveniently have like a demonologist or someone in their staff or whatever who can exorcise the demon out. And those people who are responsible for the murders and just going along with the witch hunts, they still exist today. Today, they are still out there. And it is so important for me that we provide this extra lens and this extra piece of conversation outside of a Christian focused one. Like that's why this podcast exists, because I can't stand it. Because people refuse to open up their lens and see other people as just other human beings. Yeah.
Hecate, she's a feared goddess. Lilith is considered one of, within witchcraft, like the idea is prominently that you find a goddess that you identify with, typically. And there's so many of them. But all of these, the faces and the stories of these goddesses have been completely warped and changed into this. Go ahead.
If you notice, in Christianity, there's no female goddesses.
Right. Oh. It's completely patriarchal.
JT, I have been going down the Mormon rabbit hole, sir.
Ooh la la.
Now I know that the Mormons believe in a heavenly mother, but they never talk about her. Ever. That there is a duality there.
Can I throw out a reason why?
Yes, please. I'd love to hear your perspective.
So this comes from the book of JT. And when I was Mormon, I believe this. The reason God doesn't talk about his female counterpart or his quote unquote wife is because he doesn't want us taking her name in vain like they do his.
Oh, so he's protective of her.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've heard that. I heard that on my deep dive.
That is really cool. It brings me to this thought that in most religions, and especially in witchcraft, the moon, there's a female deity associated with the moon. But in Abrahamic religions, the moon is a male god who ends up wanting to marry a woman.
Oh.
In the moon's episode, I was blathering on about like this whole Rachel story. So Rachel in the Bible apparently, Nicole in the Bible was a woman that the moon god wanted to marry and made his wife. But anyway, again, it's this whole switcheroo. Women are useless and evil.
Well, and it goes back to why were so many women accused as witches is because of that treatise that Heinrich Kramer wrote.
The Malleus Maleficarum.
He basically said that it was all females that were the witches. And so
they were the most likely.
Because they were the weaker sex, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you be so confident? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to tell everybody it's because you're weaker. That is so classically narcissist. I hate it.
All right. Pause.
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten to question 3 yet. And
I didn't know we weren't on question 3.
So I'm about to lead us into question 3. But the question is, what do we want to do here? I want us all to talk about Abby's part.
I had one con and one pro. So number 1, how do you feel about editing? You want to keep it short for editing's sake. Number 2, listeners, we finally got some fan mail, and now we can say that 100% of our vocal fans want the longer episodes. So
it's true. It's a small sample size, but it is 100%.
I already had a dream about you, Mel, that you are our friend. So welcome. You guys, Tenacious D, Lee, they've got their one fan and they wrote the song about him.
Oh, I didn't know that's what that song was.
Yeah. talks about their like one super fan who goes to all of their shows and he's like the only one. But anyway,
I didn't know that. Shall we sing that for Mel?
Yeah, we got to change it to the Mel, 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 Mel.
Mel, we love you.
Mel, 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 Mel.
Mel, I have a feeling you're going to be a really good friend of the show. I already like the email exchange. I'm so excited to write the next email. I love this. I love this person.
I haven't been able to read that one, but yeah, the dream was something. Anyway, read through all of question number 3 so that I can judge.
Here's question 3. What does it even mean to be a witch today? And how is it different than shamanism or sorcery, which we can skip that part. More, I wanted to talk about like what is the difference between what we think witches are today versus what we have evidence for historically. And then the other half of that question, which I think is the more important part of the question, and I think is your part, Abby, how did we get from witch hunts, the Malleus Maleficarum, and murdering women and persecution of witchcraft to things like Witch Talk and Glinda the Good Witch? And what is this other one? What is this movie that's out now with what's her face?
A movie?
Ariana Grande?
Wicked.
Wicked.
That's a witch-based movie,
the whole thing,
right?
Wizards, yeah.
It's
Wizards and witches.
The story of the witches of the Wizard of Oz.
And magic.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So how did we get from witch hunts and persecution to where we are now? And so that might be a long and winding episode.
I think that there is a whole other follow-up episode.
Okay.
But I also think I could quickly, succinctly answer the questions real quick just so that they do go answered for this episode, like in a very short way, albeit maybe unsatisfying. But like I said, it took me 2 weeks to get through this book. There are so many different variations of witchcraft in America. I mean, it has so many different denominations like Christianity does. And there's a lot to it. Again, there's this question about the ethics of it, the occult practices of it, the misunderstanding of it in our culture. And even still, all the shade coming from the other side, still labeling them evil devil worshippers.
And that was question 4. What are the overall perceptions of witchcraft today, and how do the Abrahamic religions view witches? And I actually have information about the African witch hunts in the 1990s, which was that was like 30 damn years ago. I couldn't even believe it when I saw it. 300 people died. And then there is this current day evangelical preacher who publicly came out during a sermon and labeled 6 of his parishioners as witches because he did an exorcism, and before the demon left that person's body, it accused these 6 people of being witches.
Gosh.
So he obviously believed the demon and was like, yeah, totally, checks out.
You're the guy to listen to here.
And now he's coming after his own parishioners for witchcraft. And he's sounds like he's nuts, but he's got a huge following.
There's so much wrong with that.
So I wanted to talk about that, but I don't think that there's necessarily time for this episode.
This was a really great deep dive into the history, like the deep history. The witchcraft today, as I'm aware, and the real brief Cliff's notes to it, is that witchcraft around the world today is not of old world witchcraft. It's hugely segmented because of those trials that happened. Now, part of the reason why the history is, scant is because obviously any who were practicing were very secretive about it and kept their mouths shut about that.
Ain't nobody wanted to die.
They were not writing that crap on the walls. But also, it is verifiably traceable modern American witchcraft, for the most part, that it has roots from early 20th century occult practices, which were started by Gerald Gardner, who wrote The Teachings of the Golden Dawn. I believe I'm saying that correctly. And then Aleister Crowley, who wrote, I forget the book of what it was called, but his religion, their version of witchcraft is Thelema. And I didn't even realize that what he did and what he, the result is actually considered witchcraft. I did not quite understand that, but I get it. And it's kind of come to my attention, and it's become my opinion that basically anything occult probably could be boiled down to some form of witchcraft. It's kind of like now occult is what paganism once was. It was supposed to be a derogatory term labeling anybody who wasn't what we want them to be. And now it seems like occult practice, generally speaking, is anybody who isn't in a mainstream religion. So there's a lot to be said there about that. Now, it is also my personal opinion that shamanism, old world, the original paganism, just meaning, whatever you want to call that, whatever the differences were between those, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, and modern mainstream religion and witchcraft, modern mainstream witchcraft, they're all the same fucking thing. They're all the same fucking thing, following different gods and having to do it a different way. You're doing it differently than us, you're wrong. Your God has a different name, you're wrong. That's my, I'm boiling it down that much. I feel comfortable doing that. And sure, there's tons of nuance, okay? Like whatever, but I stand pretty firm in my intuition that they're all the fucking same, and you're just in denial if you don't want to see that.
It's all spirit work and magic work,
right?
Like, that's it. Yeah.
Shamanism is they worship and believe in and take guidance from the ancestors, right? Like kind of,
you don't worship them, but you make partnerships with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus in witchcraft, you are making a partnership with a goddess. Largely. There's probably gods. I don't know. In all of the research that I learned, it was goddess over and over again, and not necessarily a male god other than modern Satanism, which isn't even technically witchcraft. Although, again, I'm going to go ahead and say, because they do still have their own form of occult practices, depending on, what kind of practitioner or follower they are, they will, amongst other types of gods, they purposely look to the teachings of Lucifer, whatever that means. I did not look into Satanism. Don't quote me on that, people. But I'm just pointing out it is its own thing. It does get lumped in and confused with the other occult things. It does have its own code of ethics that set it apart from any sort of, air quotes, evil occult practices. And so when people look out in the woods and find like weird animal sacrifices and altars and things going on, and they're like, oh my God, there was devil worshiping here, that could have been witchcraft.
Yeah.
that could have been anybody. But most witchcraft covens also follow a non-harm code of ethics as well. So
I think, just as a point of order, I guess, in my early explorations before I landed on studying shamanism, I did come across at least one version of witchcraft which had two gods, a dual god system, a male and a female.
Okay.
I don't remember what it was. I'll have to see if I can find it.
Usually the yin and yang is commonly, like, you want to balance the masculine and the feminine. And
then the second part is, I think that there's a tendency to want things to be binary. Mm-hmm. We want a practitioner of magic to either be good or evil.
Right.
But one of the things I'm learning is that really your practitioners are human.
Right.
And sometimes we are in very good moods and we want good things. And sometimes we're in real shitty moods and we're angry and we're pissed.
Yeah.
And maybe we let loose on something that maybe we regret later, but we're not, practitioners are not necessarily all one thing or all the other.
Yeah.
Which maybe wasn't part of really a point that needed to be made, but I just thought
it's
of that.
A good point, because it does need to be said. Something that I explicitly learned and read was that in witchcraft, by far and large, there is no good or evil. There's karma. They don't carry shame. They don't carry guilt. They don't carry good or evil. It's you'll get karma. Like, you get what you give. if you do something wrong, you don't need to like wander around like feeling shitty about it all day long. You'll get your karma, like
What
if you
you put
deserve
into
it.
the
Right.
world will come back onto you threefold.
Which is part of the reason why they do have the ethical underlying code of don't do harm, because whatever you put out there, you're very likely to get back. You're probably doing yourself harm if you do so. But like you said, that doesn't mean that a witch might not, like, in this book by Alex Marr, she talks about how she gets a new boyfriend and his ex-girlfriend is really kind of like still possessive and like wriggling her way back into his life as a significant character. And she's like, A, like, I want him to not go back to her, but B, she's not good for him anyway. So she's like, can I do some sort of binding spell or something that'll help not have her be a part of his life anymore? And the witch who provides her spell says, well, look, when it comes to protecting your own, we definitely believe that it's okay to do what it takes to provide protection to those you love. And I do believe any Christian would probably say the same goddamn thing. Any God-fearing, gun-toting Christian would say the same goddamn thing. So
wasn't it an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, or something like that? Like isn't that a Christian dogma?
Oh,
or at least comes from.
Yes. From the New Testament. No, wait. Nope. I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, it's the Old Testament.
Okay,
Old
great.
Testament.
It's the law of Moses.
Right. 50-50.
I didn't make that up. I'm glad that I didn't imagine that. Like that's an old dogma that still exists today. An eye for an eye, right?
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I mean, I think a lot of important things were said. I don't think that we removed any sort of veil of a mystery for listeners. If you're already in it, then we might not have said anything new, but maybe it felt good to hear. Hopefully we validated you. Hopefully we didn't frustrate anybody with misinformation or saying anything wrong. Hopefully we didn't frustrate too many Christian listeners. I can't imagine we have a lot of those, but
yeah, that would surprise me.
But also, whatever. Honestly, like, even as I'm saying, hopefully we didn't frustrate you, I'm just like, do I feel that way? I don't know.
I hope we all learned something today.
I feel gross when I listen to the Valentine's episode and I was like playing devil's advocate for like the rapist being able to get to go and like live with his goddess angel that he
You played devil's advocate?
Yeah, remember we were both like, fuck that guy, like she escaped.
All right.
you,
And
blah,
JT's
blah, blah.
like, don't change your position.
Yes!
I remember that now.
And I even said, like, I'm sorry for getting so feminist. And as I'm listening to it later, I'm like, that's not feminist. That's like good human,
basic human decency.
Like he is a bad guy.
He was a kidnapper and rapist.
He was a bad person who did not deserve that ending of that story. But anyway.
Aw, JT's tired.
Yeah.
He worked all day.
Yeah.
I did.
I think that we've covered a lot of really great bases and talked about a lot of things that needed to be talked about for women.
So listeners, just so you know, Abby did a lot of extensive research, and I do want to talk more about, we've got a couple more questions that we were going to use to guide our discussion for this episode. What we're going to do is we're going to close out this episode for now and come back in a very short period of time, like maybe a week, with a follow-up episode where we kind of finish our thoughts about how witchcraft got from witch hunts to where it is today, and then talking about a very recent witch hunt and some recent news about a Christian who is very anti-witch. So I think that will make some really interesting discussion.
The last thing I would like to say, you talked a lot about Blåkulla, which is an actual island in the Baltic Sea off of Sweden. And that is the quote-unquote Devil's Island that the witches would go fly to and have orgies. But they did find older stuff that predates those stories on that island.
Like what?
Viking, or like there's labyrinths on the island.
That's cool.
That are really old. There's, so it's now a national park called the Blå Jungfru, the Blue Maiden.
Blue Jungfru. All right. Well, cool.
I'm also actually going to change my position a little bit about how modern witchcraft isn't really based on old world practices. And I will explain why I kind of missed that, and I'm changing my position in the follow-up episode.
Okay. Sounds great. And then after the follow-up episode, our next real episode is going to be about Appalachian mythology. So with that,
Ooh la la.
I know, I'm excited. We've been waiting a while for this Appalachian one. We
Yeah.
actually had special requests for this one.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to do it. All right. So with that, I think let's close out the show, everybody. And I miss Cameron, but he'll be here with us. I think he would have had quite a bit to say
Yeah.
on this one.
I think so too.
Yeah.
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 It's all right. We miss you, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. With that, this has been another episode of
The
Wandering
Crow.
Crow.
Our outro song today is called Blood Red Moon by Paisley Pink from Epidemic Sound. Chosen 100% because I liked the name and the vibe. Enjoy!
All I'm keeping track of is the weather, and there's no wind, no sun, nothing. 80 days and I'm not feeling better, but a sweet relief is finding me. There's no love under the portrait. Ain't got no loyalties, no one to please. I just got that rhythm hard and never leave, setting my soul free. Oh, the thrill I finally surrender, waving my white flag, wanted it back. Always tried too hard, but now that's over. I can finally be me. There's no love under the portrait. Ain't got no loyalties, no one to please. I just got that rhythm hard and never leave, setting my soul free. Oh, the thrill, I finally surrender, waving my white flag. I wanted it bad. Always tried too hard, but now that it's over, I can finally be me. There's no love under the portrait. Ain't got no loyalties, no one to please. I just got that rhythm hard and never leave, setting my soul free. Ain't got no loyalties, no one to please. I just got that rhythm hard and never leave, setting my soul free.